Guess who we found here? We're in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and it's Ocean Fest.
Ocean Fest.
And your position at Ocean Fest is?
Well, this is the 5th year of Ocean Fest, and I'm featured as one of the featured speakers. And they obviously, I don't like to talk about myself, but they're talking about Cousteau to make people show up.
Yes, yeah.
And I'm glad to help because I think this show is so different than what we used to, where you confine in convention centers. Here the public can come, can enjoy themselves, can eventually test themselves at diving.
Yeah.
And this is so unusual compared to everything else we do in the diving community.
Yeah. Well, what are you? The name of your group, or you showed me your billboard, not the billboard, but your booth.
Yeah, my company is Ocean Future Society. We are an NGO, not-for-profit organization, and I merged 3 companies into Ocean Future Society because there's so many not-for-profit organizations now that we need to work together, we need to cooperate, and we need to merge because there's too many people asking for the same kind of money to the same people, and it's a little bit like television where there are more and more and more and more stations, but there's the same advertising dollars to be divided in pieces. So I think NGOs should work together more often, and as a result of the tremendous demand that we have from children particularly, we've decided to have a website where you can become a member for free. You just sign on and you're a member for free, which means we're not competing with others who are asking for money. So it makes it a lot easier to join forces with people who have different talents or better talents than we have.
Yeah. Are you doing anything with the diving sites in Fort Lauderdale that you're, are you involved in preserving them or improving them, or
to the extent that I can communicate, yes, which is what I will be doing tomorrow night when I make my presentation, which will focus amongst other things on coral reefs. But I work with the marine sanctuary system. We created a foundation which is called the National Marine Sanctuary Foundation, which is an NGO looking in at the marine sanctuary system, or the government if you like, and see what they're doing and how we can improve what they do by bringing in what they're not doing, such as more educational materials, signage, more public relation. So the public at large understand that the marine sanctuary is a little bit like a national park, and it's managed by their tax dollars. It's there for them to enjoy. It is regulated. There are people who really take care of it, and most of the public doesn't even know it exists. Well, it's there. There are 13 marine sanctuaries in the United States. The Florida Keys is a big one. There's one in Hawaii. There's one in American Samoa. There's several on the East Coast and the West Coast, and these are treasures which are being preserved for future generations to enjoy. But the present generation should know that it's there and do a better job of helping it and managing it.
Yeah. Did you know Mel Fisher?
Yeah, I knew Mel Fisher and some of what he was doing and his exhibits down in the Keys and so on. He was a character.
He was, I remember him quite well too. Talk about. You were just telling me that Louis Malle was like a big brother to you when he was apprenticing with your father, Jacques Cousteau.
Yes, Louis Malle was only a few years older than I was, and often during the expeditions in the 50s, we bunked in the same cabin, and we had a very, very good relationship. Louis Malle was a very good person, and a fun little anecdote about him. He had a heart problem. His heart was kind of split in half, and doctors would say, "No diving," and he said, "No diving," and he went diving all his life, and that's not what killed him.
No.
So it's interesting that nature sometimes do things that you cannot expect.
Right?
That's right. Doctor says, "Don't go there," and that's the first thing he did.
There and he probably improved his heart.
Probably.
Yeah.
That's right.
because he enjoyed it so much too, and might have.
He was a very creative man, a film producer, and I really enjoy many of his shows.
Yeah, that's terrific. And now I wanted to make mention of having photographed your 1983. I don't know if you remember the occasion.
No,
but,
I don't. And
was,
it's great that you gave me a picture, and there's an article in the paper.
Yeah, that's right.
Where my dad is
with
together
you.
featured in a restaurant.
That was in 1983.
And he was so kind to give me a good
image.
A good image,
yeah.
And I have two.
And that photo appeared in Europe and in the United States. That was in Germany. That was written by a German editor that used the photo.
See, the 3 is missing, 1983.
Yeah, well,
so
that's my name, Bettina.
Yes.
So.
It's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, anything more that you can tell us that?
Well,
what you're doing in addition to this Ocean Fest?
I can tell you a lot more.
What's your feeling on the outer filter reefs and their placement in Lauderdale?
The artificial reefs?
Yeah, they've been doing a lot of it, right?
I think artificial reefs, provided that they're done properly, are not a bad thing for the environment. I don't think it's resolved all the problems that we are faced with today, which are a lot bigger than the potential local destruction of anything. It has to do with something which even this administration doesn't take seriously, and that's the global issue. Global warming is a real issue. Just 3 days ago, an iceberg 120 some miles disconnected from Antarctica is floating away and melting.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And this is the number 19. There's been 2 of that size in the last few months. It's gigantic. It's over 2,000 square miles.
Yeah, a lot of us maybe the new Atlantis.
We're not taking it seriously. We're getting all the symptoms that things are changing, and it has a lot to do with our consumption of fossil fuel, whether it's the conventional use of oil or the mining that we're still doing and the burning of coal and so on. And the amount of CO2 that and other gases which are released in the atmosphere by the hundreds of millions of tons are for the most part absorbed by nature and recycled, but there's too much now. So it has come to a point where the consequences is changes of weather, and certainly when it comes to the ocean, pretty much overall, not everywhere, but overall an increase in the water temperature. The immediate consequences of that is that the coral, which doesn't tolerate to be too cold or too warm, and it varies from one species to the other, can take a little bit of punishment for a little bit of time. But when too much is too much, or let's say you have temperature of water in the South Pacific, in the islands which I know well, like Fiji and the Solomon and Vanuatu, these places have no pollution sources. But the water temperature, which is a result of our action in our industrial world, is growing and staying at 86, 88 degrees for a much longer period of time than it used to.
Yeah.
And the coral is bleaching. It's giving up. It's saying, I can't handle it anymore. And so we have major problem. And the frequency at which this is happening with El Nino and the release of CO2 in the atmosphere, this amplitude and the frequency are increasing, and which means it's happening more and more often, and it's more
faster.
and more the temperature, the length of temperature increase is getting greater and greater. So we know now where the origin of those problems are, but we're not prepared to do anything.
No, it seems that people don't want to do anything until it's too late, like September 11th. You know, we know they knew so many things, but nobody did anything because they waited for it to happen.
The patient is sick.
Yeah.
The temperature is mounting.
Yeah.
We know what the problems are. We know what the remedies are, but we're not doing anything.
Yeah.
We do not have the will to make a major change. And I'm convinced, as we've seen historically, even in our short existence on this planet, only 3 million years compared to sharks, 200-300 million years, or whales and dolphins, 50-60 million years.
Really?
So we've only been here for a very short period of time. Even in that period of time, a culture that has refused to change and evolve in time disappears.
Yeah.
And
extinct.
if we are rejecting the challenges of tomorrow, making new improvements, going ahead with new technologies, and only looking at what we used to do in the 50s and the 60s as the technologies of today, then we will disappear. And I think this administration is making a formidable mistake at the moment of not looking forward but looking backwards.
What about the hybrid cars and the electric cars? Would that make a big difference?
Well, hybrid cars and fuel cells and so on are the step in the right direction. But the industries, the auto industries, is putting a lot of PR in front, but they're releasing everything. The average car today consumes more gasoline than the average cars 20 years ago.
Really?
The SUVs, for example, have no regulations. They consume as much as they want because there's a loophole in the regulations. This is a nonsense, and we all know that.
Have you talked to Ralph Nader?
No, I haven't spoken to him. Unfortunately, Ralph Nader is kind of a thing of the past.
Yeah.
And we need a new Ralph Nader. We need a modern Ralph Nader, which hasn't popped out yet.
Yeah.
There's one in France, though, and I think in Germany as well. So there's hope on the horizon, but we need reasonable people who look forward and not backwards.
Yeah.